Hello and welcome to Airheads, a not-so-serious look at the serious business of royal rumours, gossip and gowns. I'm Tom.
And I'm Maeve.
And Charles no longer has coronavirus.
Thank God. Thank God. We're pleased to hear that Charles is apparently got the all clear now. We were talking last week about how he had gone into quarantine after testing positive for coronavirus. And then on Monday we heard that he was out of quarantine.
In and out. He did the 7 days, which is what the government here is recommending.
I think people were pretty shocked. Like, even we were like, wow, that was fast.
Yeah.
And the news came out that he was out of isolation after 7 days. But I understand that the guidelines are very different in other countries. But believe it or not, that is the advice that we're getting from the UK government. 7 days after you have symptoms, you can free yourself onto the world, which is what Charles did.
Via video call.
We're all wising up to this new video conferencing reality, none more so than the future king.
He's got a really good professional setup going. He gave us a glimpse of his study at Burke Hall in Scotland, which is where he is at the moment. He plastered his social media with this new video. He sounded, still a bit husky from his illness. It's kind of very sexy, deep voice.
Contracted this coronavirus.
He gave a speech as patron of Age UK, which is a charity that helps the elderly. He thanked National Health Service volunteers and also grocery store clerks and other supermarket employees, which was a really nice touch because he said that they are clearly essential and should be treated with special consideration, which I felt was like the closest impartial, non-political royal person could come to saying, like, pay them more, we need them.
Yeah, and I think they definitely emphasised that he was speaking as patron of Age UK. This wasn't him trying to assume the role of
the Queen
by addressing the nation in any kind of official capacity. This was just meant to be a speech to elderly people and people looking after the elderly, which also happened to tick a lot of the boxes that we would have wanted the Queen to do had she given a speech. But she is going to give a speech and we'll get onto that in a moment. But first, let's have a little dive into Charles's favourite things.
I can only imagine that he spent ages deciding which of his treasured possessions would be on display in this video.
What were your favourite elements of this video backdrop?
I did appreciate the vase of flowers, the lilies in the corner. I thought that was a nice, bright touch.
I loved the Dick Francis book that was just like beaming out from the bookshelf.
Yeah.
That was like the first book you could see. I was trying really hard, as we were last week when we were zooming in on Kate's Penguin Classics. We were love finding out what people read, and I couldn't get a clear look at the other titles on his bookshelf, but I was really into the Dick Francis thriller, which we know, I think all members of the royal family love Dick Francis, and his son gave an interview where he said that the royal family are the first people that read his books as well, that he specially delivers 4 copies to the palace.
Wow. I enjoyed that he had Tropica, a colour cyclopedia of exotic plants and trees from the tropics and subtropics. I like to think of him flicking through this huge book of weird trees and deciding where on his grounds he wants to put them. And obviously there was the framed photograph of a grazing stag. And we know from Helen Mirren's portrayal of the Queen that the royals really identify with these most noble of creatures.
Peter Morgan's mind, anyway.
Well, and clearly in Charles's too. This is a stag grazing, some would say waiting to take his place. I would say that anyway.
We got an even better look at Charles's decor in Burke Hall on Friday when he virtually opened a hospital, the NHS Nightingale in East London, via video link. And the Clarence House posted this brilliant behind the scenes shot of him with his iPad, with this incredible setup. The iPad is like propped up on this red box, obviously not the red box, but a red box, and a book written by Prince Charles.
Such great self-promotion.
some personal spawn there. And wow, what an array of framed photographs in the background. Like, we can't go through all of them, but
let's just say he was really covering all his bases, given that there's always a lot of scrutiny on what photos are on display in royal photos.
He even had Zara Tyndall in there, you know. He wasn't getting caught out at all. What were your highlights from this photographic display?
Well, I did like that he had Louis' christening, because we know the Queen wasn't bothered to go. But Charles has the picture. Maybe he sent the picture to the Queen to be like, this is what you missed out on. What about you?
I liked all the pics of him. I mean, I like all the pics of him with Will and Harry. We know they don't have like the closest relationship, or we've heard they don't have the closest relationship, but I thought that was a sweet picture of the three of them in their military uniforms. And I also liked the wedding pic of him and Camilla when Camilla wore that sensational hat. But I did enjoy as well that there were those like pics of the Queen when she was younger, the Queen with Princess Margaret, and the pics of Charles and Anne as kids. Those were like sweet little pics. No pictures of Andrew from what I could see.
And we got more flowers. This time it was wildflowers picked probably from his own garden. Do you think he picked them himself on one of his rambling walks that he's been allowed to do?
I mean, I would have to say flower arranging is not his greatest skill, but they did bring some colour to this sort of chaotic room. I also really enjoyed these very large ceramic chickens on top of the piano.
Yeah, they were great, because especially as they were right by all these photos, they were very much like guardians of the family. Of course, the best thing about this was seeing Charles's work from home outfits, which...
complete with pocket square.
Pocket square. I mean, and this is, you know, from a man who's having to cope with very limited staff. He probably doesn't even have his valet anymore. So he's managed to cobble together this very spiffy looking suit.
Double-breasted, right?
Well, it's Charles, so of course. But, you know, we like to think that he's wearing sweatpants and slippers underneath that table.
Or even less. I am interested to see what the Queen is going to wear when she makes her long-awaited address to the nation.
Yeah.
On Sunday night, last night, if you're listening on Monday.
Across the country, we're preparing for this momentous event. It's going to be about 4 minutes long. They recorded it last week on Thursday or Friday, but they're not airing it until Sunday evening, which is kind of odd, given that it's been a beautiful weekend and there's been a lot of worry in the papers about lots of people going out to parks and the difficulty of social distancing during great weather.
But the Telegraph had quite an interesting little piece where it was noted the word went round a few days ago that although Her Majesty was willing to do what was required of her in the interests of pulling the people together, she would rather not unless it was absolutely necessary. Certain considerations seem to have made it necessary. So that does make it sound like she's not really bothered to do this.
Yeah.
But I think it probably has to do with the fact with how rare these kind of speeches are. Like, obviously she has her Christmas message every year, but she hasn't actually made an address like this under special circumstances for years. She's only done it 4 times. So the first one was in 1991 during the Gulf War, and then after Diana's death in 1997, and then the most recent one was back in 2002 when our mother had died. In the run-up to Easter, it's considered necessary. You know, the people will be having days off, a lot of bank holidays, the weather's going to be really nice, so people will probably be tempted to ignore those social distancing guidelines, and I guess the Queen is the one that's going to put a stop to all that. The Sunday Times had a report that a government source was saying ministers regard the 93-year-old monarch as their trump card in persuading wavering citizens to stick to the government guidelines. And I mean, we'll have to see if that happens, but I'm surprised that this didn't go out before this weekend, like you were saying.
I just think it's a bit late. But I suppose better late than never. We got some bits of the speech extracted in the Sunday papers, although we haven't seen the speech in its entirety, in its 4-minute entirety. We have a pretty good idea of what she's going to say. So she'll say, "I hope in the years to come everyone will be able to take pride in how they responded to this challenge, and those who come after us will say that the Britons of this generation were as strong as any, that the attributes of self-discipline, of quiet, good-humoured resolve, and of fellow feeling still characterise this country."
We've heard that this message was very much written by the Queen herself, with a little bit of help from her private secretary, Edward Young, and some consultation with Downing Street. The message is going to be unity, unity, unity.
Yeah.
And I also got a little bit of a vibe of like a scolding ma'am, like kind of warning people that you're going to want to be proud of how you behaved here, so watch yourself.
I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying you're going to look back on this time and you're going to, either be very disappointed or very proud of yourself. It's very, like, we've been talking about, like, everyone's talking about the Blitz spirit and all this kind of life in wartime type vocabulary that's going around. So I think she's really drawing on that to try and make people come together.
That shit works like gangbusters on you guys, though. Oh
yeah.
My God.
Oh, yeah.
You love it.
I've already been, like, creating my own medals this week, so clearly I'm very into this.
Only one BBC cameraman wearing protective gear was allowed into the stateroom during the filming. So they're obviously taking a lot of precautions here.
Oh, yeah.
I think it will have a big impact on people if they see the Queen, who's going to be 94 in a couple of weeks. If they can see her self-isolating, then the message may finally get through to people that they need to do it as well.
So while the boss is preparing to make her speech, there's been a lot of Game of Thrones style machinations going on between various households in the royal family as to who gets to be the public face of coronavirus.
This is just fascinating to me. I love it. I love imagining all of them cooped up in their mansions, plotting their next move, like Daenerys, with a big map room laid out.
The camera swooping down into Burke Hall and huge ceramic chickens rising up.
We heard about Prince William's latest bid for the crown this week when he wooed the public with his talk of wanting to return to his old job as an air ambulance pilot. I have to say, this news was very much greeted in this household with a roll of the eyes.
Yeah.
It was on the front page of The Sun that William has privately said he wants to get back in the cockpit and help out on the front line.
They had a source that said, he knows the whole country is doing its bit and he wants to help, but it's complicated that he was originally grounded from the job so that he could become a senior working royal. That role is even more important now, given that Charles has been ill, Harry has walked away with Meghan, and Andrew has been effectively barred from public life. But William is very keen to do anything he can to help. I mean, it seems to me William is very keen to tell everybody that he's keen to help.
I know. It's so convenient that there is no way he's going to be allowed to do any of this. It would be
way more of a hindrance than a help.
Absolutely.
To the effort.
And it just seems like he gets credit for saying, oh, you know, I'd really like to do this, even though it's pretty much impossible for me to actually do it. We asked our followers on Instagram what you guys thought of it, and a lot of people said that we were being way too harsh and that it was nice that he wanted to do something.
And, you know, if he does it and if it, you know, is helpful, then that's very impressive. And, you know, if he has the skills to help, that's great. But
who does this serve? You know, what is the point of coming out and saying you want to do something when you know you're not going to be able to do it? Surely all his advisors would be able to tell him, well, there's no way that you're actually going to be able to do anything with the air ambulance because you'd be so much more of a distraction.
He should be focusing on stuff that he can actually make a difference on rather than trying to get credit for stuff that he says rather than does.
I also think it's not a coincidence that this news came out on the 30th of March, the day before Harry and Meghan stepped down as senior working royals. The Telegraph even pointed that out. that it was unusual timing for this announcement, if you could even call it an announcement, this news story to come out. At the same time, we're seeing a lot of these stories that we talked about last week. This has all been ramped up, this narrative of Harry has to come home. And Tatler magazine had a piece by Harry's biographer, Angela Levin, who wrote, "Come home, Harry, your country needs you." And again, like, major eye roll here for me. Needs him to do what? I don't want Harry out doing anything around here. Like, stay home.
Yeah.
We're getting this stuff about how Kate and Will are working flat out. They're at the front line for the Royals. And, you know, I wonder what any of that means.
Yeah.
Because obviously we're not seeing them, and we're hearing in the court circular that they're making a lot of phone calls. If that's what they want Harry to do, he could be doing that from anywhere in the world.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't need to be here. It just seems like something to say because it sounds good. But there's no substance.
One of the phone calls that Prince William and Kate Middleton did make this week was to NHS doctors and carers, and they shared a bit of this call on Kensington Royal's Instagram, where we could hear just Will's part of the conversation. But he did sound very sincere, I thought. One of the things he said was, "The whole country is proud of you, not just us. We really mean that, so thank you for everything you are doing and all the hours you are putting in."
A lot of people commenting on this, thanking him for conveying that message for them. This was a real, good moment, I think, for Will to be passing on that message.
Yeah, this is what social media is for.
Yeah.
We also got a glimpse into the Cambridge homeschool routine from a source who was speaking to The Sun. The Sun reported that Prince William and Kate are sharing the homeschooling duties as they lead the royal fight against coronavirus. Again.
What does that mean?
So the source goes on. For Kate and William, like any other parent, one of the main priorities for them right now is helping to keep a settled home environment for their children. That's why they have both been keeping very involved in helping George with his work.
I want to know if that's why they stocked up on military history books before this all started.
And they've been putting on lots of activities for Charlotte, as well as making time for play with Louis. Kate is leading on most of the teaching. She spends time every day doing something with them. That is so vague. But William is also rolling up his sleeves and getting stuck in as well. They've both found the experience hugely rewarding, but it has underlined to them the amazing job our teachers do. Yeah, you and everyone else in the country.
Yeah.
But I did think this is the kind of thing where it really would benefit them to show rather than tell.
Yeah, they could be getting a really good response from people if they were sharing what they're doing, things that work, things that maybe don't always work with their kids.
I would have hoped that they would learn from Kate's appearance on the Happy Mum, Happy Baby podcast that people really find it very relatable when Kate talks about her own parenting experience. And as well as that, I feel like this would be such a good opportunity for Kate to put to use all of that early years research that we've heard about so much recently. You know, this could be a time for her to share some of her own experience in talking to her kids about the pandemic, or tips for other people, things that she has found useful, maybe around, you know, the difficulties of homeschooling, even something as simple as saying, you know, I'm finding it hard too, and let people know that they're not alone in finding this very challenging, and doing anything at all with your kids is good enough. You know, that's the message we're hearing from a lot of experts, but I feel like it would mean so much more if it was coming from Kate, because people really relate to her. And I know it sounds like we're pinning all of this on Kate, but just because the story we're getting is that Kate is leading on the teaching, that, you know, she would be the one to come out and say that, and given her experience in the early years sector. But as well as that, you know, Will has done a lot of work with mental health, particularly for men. This is obviously a very challenging time in terms of mental health, and that men may not be opening up about it. You know, that seems like another area where he could do some good, maybe.
But I think it might be time, Maeve, to talk about the elephant in the room.
I wonder, while Kate and Will have been doing something every day with the kids, was one of those things possibly watching a new nature documentary on Disney Plus?
I really hope so. This week, of course, we saw the Disney documentary Elephant come to our screens, narrated by Meghan, Duchess of Sussex.
So exciting. We sat down on Friday evening to watch this, and it was kind of a weird experience, honestly.
Yeah.
have never watched any of these Disney nature movies. I don't think I've even really watched that many nature documentaries other than like the odd David Attenborough kind of thing. So I didn't really know what to expect. And at first I thought, like, this is so strange hearing Megan's voice doing this, because it has that kind of narrative to it. It's not like the kind of observational, educational kind of ones that you know you might see on BBC or whatever. She's telling this story and in this really sweet voice, and it takes a little bit getting used to. But then I was like, wow, she is doing a fabulous job here.
I imagine that kids would love this. They take, you know, a very friendly approach to it. They give a lot of the elephants names. Like you're saying, like they weave in this narrative. We focus on a 1-year-old elephant called Jomo and his mum and his aunt. He is kind of navigating the world for the first time and needs a lot of help from these monumental and protective female figures in his life.
I thought it was such a good movie to come out right now. I feel like families would love this.
Yeah, there's a lot of really great kid-friendly and Tom-friendly humour because there's farting. There's this great bit where Megan goes, "Pool party!" Not like that, obviously. But there's also some scary moments where you're kind of really worried about these characters that you've grown to love. But it's very difficult to watch this and not be relating everything to the royal family. Probably easier for kids to watch without thinking that, which is obviously the intended audience. But for us, it was like, she's talking about a matriarch, she's talking about the Queen.
Yeah, it's. I mean, obviously Megan didn't write it, but just hearing her talk about it, you're like, wow, I can see how this path tracks with her own path.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of the importance of protecting her family. And we heard as well from one of the directors, Vanessa Berlowitz. She gave an interview to People magazine, and she was talking about Megan. She said, Megan was absolutely intrigued by the elephants and transfixed, especially by the female empowerment side, how important the matriarchs to the story. It really is all about female leadership. It's a different form of power. It's about consensual leadership. It's also very inclusive as well, very contemporary. She was absolutely fascinated by that. Of course she was.
Of course she was. I thought it was very interesting, this idea of consensual leadership. They talk about how different matriarchs have different styles of leadership. There's a real sense that being a true leader is never leaving a family member behind.
Yeah.
So I was obviously, I mean, we were both had our like antennae directly focused on all that kind of stuff.
But apparently they met the directors back when Harry and Meghan went to Botswana in 2017, and they had dinner together, and the directors showed Harry and Meghan some of the footage that they had captured for this documentary, and then they went back and they were talking and they were thinking, God, what if we asked Meghan to narrate this? So they pulled up some footage from one of her UN women's speeches and overlaid it on the footage, and they were like, wow, Meghan could be really good. And I just love that. It's so good. And obviously she said yes, and as we know, she donated her fee to the charity Elephants Without Borders. But let's talk about a couple of particular standout lines that just really resonate when you hear them in Megan's voice.
I mean, we both virtually fell off the couch at this line when she said,
Elephants can't survive on small islands. They need to roam vast distances to thrive.
I feel like Megan just has a monopoly on the word thrive now. Whenever I hear thrive, I think Megan.
I also think her talking about small islands. So good.
There was also a moment where there was this sort of showdown between two elephant families, and Megan says the rivals had strength in numbers but lacked Shani's determination to protect her family. Wow.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to, doesn't it? The drive to protect your family. But this is like basically just us writing fan fiction and quarantinement. Despite the fact that this was a Disney movie for kids, narrated by an ex-Suits actress who gave the money for it to charity, it was reviewed by the British papers and was like very harshly treated, I thought. I
mean, it was reviewed everywhere, which of course it should be. Like, I was reading every review of it. But I thought some of the criticisms were really unduly harsh and really made me wonder, had any of these people ever watched a Disney nature documentary before? Because in The Telegraph, their review started Those of us reared on a high-fibre diet of David Attenborough documentaries might find Elephant a little sweet in the tusk. This comparison to David Attenborough really recurs through a lot of the British reviews, which is hilarious to me. I don't know why anybody would try and put Meghan and David Attenborough side by side.
Yeah.
He is a natural historian that he spent his whole career studying this stuff. Meghan is a former actress and a former working royal. You know, there's no comparison here.
As well, like, she is American, it's being made by Disney. Of course the tone is going to be wildly different.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's for kids. If Kate had done a voiceover for a film for children and she had all these very sweet moments that Meghan has, she would be absolutely praised as being like so entertaining and absolutely there to bring joy to the children, whereas Meghan is just being told, you're not a natural historian. Pipe down. I also took issue with one of the reviews was like, she announces the removal of some bark as though it's like winning an award, but if you watch this movie, getting that bark off that tree is very important to the survival of these elephants. So, you know, back off.
It did serve as a kind of comfort to us after the sad news earlier this week that the SussexRoyal Instagram account is no more.
Yeah, they've gone dark.
I mean, it seems a little bit ridiculous to say this is sad news given every other news in the world. But it was a little bit of a bummer to see this final navy blue post coming up on my feed.
So on Monday the 30th of March, the couple put up a new post saying, "Thank you to this community for the support, the inspiration and the shared commitment to the good in the world. Harry and Meghan." First name terms. The caption outlined that they would no longer be updating the SussexRoyal account. They also turned the comments off. And
at last.
Yeah, finally. They said, "As we all find the part we are to play in this global shift and changing of habits, we are focusing this new chapter to understand how we can best contribute. While you may not see us here, the work continues."
I have to say I didn't love that they ended it by saying, "You've been great." Just like kind of this tossed off, "You've been great, thanks."
I don't know, I think that they probably intended it to be warm, but these kind of things can come across very differently in text than they seem in your head.
I know some people had some criticisms of this post. I mean, it's so awkward that this whole transition is happening in the middle of a pandemic and you don't really know how to navigate that. For some people, they shouldn't be talking about themselves at all, and they're clearly trying to temper that by pointing out that this is a very difficult time and there's so much happening right now, and we're just letting you know, like, we're still working away on this. And I kind of wonder if maybe they were thinking more about how people were going to react if they hadn't posted anything, and were there going to be all those headlines of Harry and Meghan still using SussexRoyal after the Queen bars them from using royal branding? Were they trying to deflect those kind of headlines? Or should they even be thinking about that right now?
I didn't have as much of a problem with it because I did think it was I thought it was a smart move. I think if they had even left it much later than Monday when they posted it, they would have had a lot of people kind of criticising them. We've already seen people like commenting.
But that's the point. Don't you just take the criticism and just understand that there are bigger things than me right now?
But then they decided not to launch a new thing in its place. They're just shutting it down, which I think is like the quietest and possibly most respectful thing they could have done to the situation. So I thought it was quite good.
I'm just really interested in why they have to close that account at all and why they don't just change the handle, as you were saying. Because, you know, we saw when they posted a few weeks ago about how they wanted to be sharing tips and advice and stuff to help people through the pandemic. They had said that they would be sharing things in the coming weeks.
Yeah. And
then, 2 weeks later, they're like piecing out of the whole account. It just seems so abrupt. And I wonder, was this an agreement that they had with the palace? You know, Lainey Gossip suggested that possibly there was some stipulation in their exit agreement that they would hand over this whole account to the palace as a kind of official record of their time as senior working royals. Or you were saying that maybe they wanted the fresh start for themselves, but I just find it hard to think that they would want to say goodbye to those 11.3 million followers.
I think that they're not saying goodbye to those 11.3 million followers because they know that the vast majority of those followers are going to follow them wherever they end up. And I think that they are in this mindset of trying to second guess every negative thing that could be said about them. And I think that includes people saying, well, they might have all those followers, but they got 11 million of them while they were still royals, so they shouldn't be allowed to use those followers. So I think that almost by getting the whole thing transferred, it's kind of like money laundering, but follower laundering.
People magazine had a few more details about Harry and Meghan's new life, with a spokesperson for the couple saying that they will spend the next few months focusing on their family and continuing to do what they can safely and privately to support and work with their pre-existing charitable commitments while developing their future non-profit organisation. We heard a little bit more about Travelist, but I think the big thing out of this was the fact that Buckingham Palace will no longer comment on enquiries related to Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. No other royal communications representatives act on behalf of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, including palace spokespeople, household representatives, nor royal sources.
This is very interesting because we're still getting all this stuff in, like the Daily Mail, for example, who have articles about like the next steps in Meghan's acting career, and they always have these sources or even royal sources. So this statement from the Sussexes seems a bit pointed towards that kind of thing.
Definitely. They clearly want to shut down any connection between themselves and any royal source. Like People magazine also had a story then earlier this week about how Archie is loving the California sunshine, but rather than saying it was a royal source or a palace source or anything, it was a Harry and Meghan source and a friend. They didn't mention the word royal at all.
So that's like a kind of flag that we need to be looking for when we're reading these stories. But what is next?
Vanity Fair had an exciting little detail in a story about what Harry and Meghan are going to be doing in future. They had a source close to the Sussexes saying Meghan is said to have a number of projects lined up, including a children's book and a new cookbook. Fantastic ideas, Meghan.
Oh my god, I can't wait to get my hands on a new Meghan cookbook.
But the piece also said that we won't know the bigger picture for a while. Given what is happening in the world, it isn't the right time to be making any major announcements or launching an organisation. These things will happen further down the line, but their idea for the organisation is already well established and quite far down the line. And that this organisation will focus principally on mental health, women and female empowerment and the environment. So that all makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tricky because like people were criticising them for making any kind of statement about themselves. But at the same time, you know, I'm desperate for news about Harry and Meghan. That kind of stuff is the perfect distraction for us. And it's very difficult because you have to be sensitive about all of that and you have to come across as very considerate of the tragedies that are happening around the world. But at the same time, it is something else for us to talk about and you can be thinking about multiple things at once. We don't know what will come from Harry and Meghan. We'll have to wait a little bit longer to find out. But we did want to use this time to look back on Meghan's career as a senior working royal. But first, let us touch on our quote of the week. What was your standout, Tom?
I think it's got to be Charles. I really enjoyed his Age UK.
Smitten with this.
Oh yeah, with his husky voice. But he said,
None of us can say when this will end, but end it will. Until it does, let us try and live with hope and, with faith in ourselves and each other, look forward to better times to come.
that's just the balm I needed.
I have to say, I did prefer that to what we hear the Queen is going to be saying about Britons and pride and Britishness.
Yeah. I mean, whatever it takes to get people to stay the fuck indoors. But, you know, this was a nicer sentiment, I think.
Instead of Fit for a Queen, we're going to do an overall look at Meghan's fits for a queen. Our top 10 from Meghan's time as a royal. Well, from the moment that she first stepped out as Harry's new royal girlfriend. Let's go through this chronologically. So, starting with the very first official public appearance together, this unforgettable, instantly controversial outfit at the Invictus Games in 2017 when Meghan wore those ripped jeans.
Holy hell. Little did we know she was going to be redefining royal dressing right from the get-go. But she paired the ripped jeans with the Mishanunu husband shirt and
so good!
the brown Everlane tote. Of course, those two items would heavily inspire the core of the Smart Set collection that she did last year.
I know that there was just so much about this outfit that was fascinating to me because obviously ripped jeans are such a departure from what you would expect from any royal to wear. Like, jeans are one thing, but the rips, oh my goodness. Then this huge fuck off bag compared to the little empty clutches that we're so used to seeing. And there was obviously stuff in this bag.
Yeah.
It's a great bag, by the way. I have it. And then that she wore this fabulous white shirt, which had the exceptional detail of being called the husband shirt, which, you know, Meghan's just so savvy when it comes to this kind of stuff. And that was just like a master move, like straight out of the gate. Like, here I am in my husband shirt with my Prince Harry boyfriend. It was so, so good. Then from there, the outfit when they announced their engagement in November of that year was a showstopper.
Yeah, the white coat.
So obviously these kind of pictures are going to be in the history books. Mm-hmm. We remember when Kate wore that blue East of London dress. Everybody bought that dress. Everybody knows what that dress looks like. For Meghan, she had a green dress, but because they announced it outside in the sunken garden... looking back on that now. But she wore it with the white wrap coat, and even better than that, she had these like sexy lace-up heels. These were like such an interesting little detail, I thought, because, you know, we're so used to seeing the nude courts. But these weren't just any nude courts. They had this lace-up detailing. They were gorgeous. And everything about it was so polished and so fresh. And it was like, this is exactly what Meghan is. Like this fresh face in this like super fresh outfit.
It was very good. Next up was the McQueen suit she wore to the Endeavour Awards in February 2018.
I loved this. I think this was her first evening engagement as a royal. And you would typically expect a cocktail dress.
Yeah.
From any other royal woman, but that Meghan wore this gorgeous suit, again, like totally redefining what we would expect from royal dressing. There is a certain playbook that you would expect her to be following in these early days as a royal before her wedding, and she just rips the whole thing up and looks fabulous doing it.
Yeah, a detail I really liked was the pussy bow blouse that she paired it with. It was very... I mean, Harry Styles is probably looking back on this outfit and thinking, yeah, that's what I want too.
Then we've got the wedding dresses. I think it's so tricky because I loved both of them. And I feel like the Givenchy one, obviously the main ceremony one, was such a perfect choice in that it was very classic, very royal, but also very Meghan with the clean lines, and that it was very simple and minimalist. But then just that evening one was such a showstopper. The Stella McCartney halter neck dress, she's never looked better. This was just absolutely divine dress. It was sexy, it was fun, it was really different from any other royal bridal wear that we've ever seen.
And she made it look so classic though, like it almost looks like Grecian in its drape.
And the fact that she was wearing that aquamarine ring that had belonged to Princess Diana, it was a beautiful accent. She just looked phenomenal. The two of them driving off in their convertible electric Jags, such a Bond moment. Just totally unforgettable.
Of course, her yellow Brandon Maxwell dress in July of 2018 was very different. This was such a bold colour.
I know, like so much of her early wardrobe from after her marriage was a lot of beige, a lot of blush pink, and, you know, it's a nice colour, but I don't think it really sings on her the way bright colours do. And especially this yellow dress. It was a sunny day, summer, July. They were outside. She was like a ray of sunshine herself. And again, it had that boat neck that was quickly becoming her signature after the wedding. And still the clean lines and the very streamlined silhouette. I just thought it was so gorgeous. There was another big surprise in store when Harry and Meghan went to see Hamilton on the West End in August of 2018, and Meghan wore that blazer dress. Whoa.
Yeah, so cool, very unexpected. This sparked a whole lot of imitations and copycat dresses.
And yeah, it was short, well, not indecently obviously, but so much shorter than you would expect from a royal. It was this masculine silhouette given a very feminine feel. The design fitted her beautifully. The double-breasted style was gorgeous. Meghan favours much simpler jewellery compared to other royal women. She just has those small, delicate earrings and rings, and she just looked so modern in this outfit. It was such a departure from what you typically think of when you when you look back on the Queen or Princess Margaret going to the theatre. This wasn't a ball gown and a fur stole. This was so 2018.
Yeah, it was like a dress with a real point of view, and was yet more evidence that Meghan wasn't going to be fading into the background, that she was here with Harry as like a very active part of this family. On their Australia tour, at the Australian Geographic Awards in October in 2018, she wore this incredible Oscar de la Renta dress covered in birds.
Yeah, this was so different from all the things we'd seen her wearing before. I mean, it was still that very monochrome palette that she likes, so it was kind of in her comfort zone in that way.
But we see so little kind of print or kind of that kind of visual design.
Yeah, and this very playful shape, this very kind of princessy almost, nipped in at the waist and then with a full skirt, was very unusual, but also so pretty and so lovely on her. Very keeping in with the theme that obviously this was the Australian Geographic Awards and she was covered in birds. That was a really nice touch, I thought. And, you know, in general, that Australia tour, New Zealand tour had some of her best royal fashion, but I just thought this was a total standout from that.
Another standout, though.
Oh my God. The Fashion Awards in December of 2018 had a surprise appearance from Meghan, and what a fucking wow moment.
Incredible.
So this came in the middle of her pregnancy, and Meghan had been trying something very different with her maternity wear, that rather than wearing maternity clothes, she wore a lot of more normal clothes that were adapted to fit her various stages of pregnancy. So, you know, we saw the odd maternity piece, but usually it was just more standard clothes. And then for red carpet as well, she went with this gorgeous one-shoulder Givenchy dress, velvet, sort of a column shape, very fitted, which is, again, quite unusual for maternity wear. But she was absolutely radiant. She had these fabulous, like, disco gold sandals on, a large gold bangle. The whole thing was just like, oh my God. I remember reading from other journalists and people that were at the event that there were gasps in the room, that, you know, the kind of fashion crowd who would have been very cool about it all were freaking out that Meghan showed up and she was glowing. It was such a fabulous moment. Those pictures of her in that dress holding her baby bump are just some of the most gorgeous pictures of her.
More recently, though, oh my God, the red sapphire dress that she wore with Prince Harry to the Mountbatten Music Festival.
Yeah, talk about a wow moment.
Jesus Christ.
This it had a nice callback in that it was the same designer that did the blue cape dress that she wore on the tour down under when she was pregnant. But as we were saying, it had more of a narrow fit. But again, in this very bold, eye-catching colour that was at once very striking outside, but then allowed her to blend in a little bit with the military uniforms inside.
It seems like such a simple solution to that problem now that it's been done, but it's just so smart.
I think this was some of her best makeup for sure. Her hair was stunning, that very straight, silky look, and the Simone Roche earrings, of course, we totally loved. I think finally, though, her last outfit as a senior working royal will be remembered forever. It was pitch perfect, in my opinion. I know the fit was not ideal, but the vision for it was just sublime. This was the green Amelia Wickstead cape dress that she wore to the Commonwealth service. We love that she had that Gabriella Hearst bag, that very unroyal bag, but then this exceptionally royal silhouette with the dramatic cape blowing behind her and the huge netting on the hat. And then again, just like incredible makeup. This was one of her very, very finest looks. It was such a big swing. Might have expected her to try and tone it down a little bit, maybe almost to go quietly, but she said, fuck no.
Not go quiet into that dark night.
Yeah, and I also really enjoyed that it was Amelia Wickstead, who is a designer from New Zealand, which made it particularly apt for the Commonwealth service, but also we know that Meghan has a bit of a history with Amelia Wickstead because she is the designer who said that Meghan's wedding dress was a copy of one of her own designs, and then Meghan still very generously wore her clothes. We saw her looking absolutely amazing in a black square neck dress by Amelia Wickstead on the Dublin visit in 2018, but as well to choose her for the final outfit in her royal career, I thought was a good move.
Yeah, let bygones be bygones. Be the bigger person.
Meghan didn't always get it right, obviously. Nobody does with her royal wardrobe. She definitely struggled at times to fit into what are quite narrow perimeters. And we saw her spending a lot with custom designer pieces that maybe weren't the best choices. But on the occasions where she pulled it off so beautifully, and it really embodied all of her strengths as a royal in terms of being very bold and very fresh and very modern and very confident, and I just loved that about her, and I'm going to miss her royal style so much.
Yeah, and just being so aware of the power that she had in that arena, like going back to the smart set, being able to translate the knowledge that everyone is looking at what I wear, things that I wear that people can afford will sell out. What can I do with that power? It's so clever.
So if you were to choose one of these 10 outfits from Meghan's royal career as your fit for a queen, what's coming out on top?
Okay, well, I'm torn between two very different looks. One is the husband shirt and ripped jeans, and then the other is the red sapphire dress.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, don't ask me to choose. I just can't. I'm kind of torn between the incredibly smart way she complemented Harry's uniform and the uniforms of the other soldiers whilst still kind of standing out and blending in. I just think that blows my mind in terms of smart dressing. But smart is a word that you can apply to the smart set, obviously. And I do think that's so inspired by her very personal style of dressing before all this took off, so I just feel like it's very pure to her.
For me, it's got to be that Stella McCartney wedding dress for the evening reception.
Yeah.
Just a total knockout. My favourite wedding dress of all time. It just had all of that megawatt glamour that no other royal has. And maybe some people don't want the royals to have that, but that is exactly what I loved about Meghan's time as a royal, and what I'm sure I'll continue to enjoy about her in her post-royal career. But just that moment crystallized for me everything that was so special and exciting about Meghan.
But we don't want to say goodbye just yet. So instead of having our typical first in line, we wanted to have a look back over what Meghan has done during her time as a royal, because it's very difficult to pick what would be our favourite.
We asked you guys last week to send us any of your favourite royal stories about Meghan that came before we had a podcast. So we've included some of them here, but we just thought we'd go kind of roughly chronologically through some of our favourite royal moments.
straight out the gate is when she turned up at the gates of Kensington Palace with bags from Whole Foods and gave the guards a big hug.
Yeah, as soon as we started hearing about Meghan, it was like, wow, this is not like any other royal girlfriend.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of that has to do with her being American, but between that and the appearance at the Invictus Games in the jeans and the husband shirt, you thought, okay, this person is like potentially very interesting.
Yeah.
As well as that, obviously, Tom and I were totally obsessed with the Tig and her whole influencer lifestyle. The fact that she was still posting on Instagram very sporadically during the early days of her relationship with Harry and before their engagement. I think my favourite of her Instagram posts was when she shared the photo of the 2 bananas with little faces drawn on them that looked like they were spooning, and the caption "Sleep tight, kiss kiss," which some people thought was possibly a reference to the fact that her and Harry were doing long distance at that point. But as we know, bananas have come to have a very special part in their royal story, which we will get onto later.
Oh, banana.
But what was your favourite Meghan Instagram post?
I mean, obviously her photo of the Brexit protest. Because I love a political queen. Our interest only grew with the engagement announcement and all the details that we got surrounding the interview and everything. So the fact that the corgis loved her, which was very important to us. The anecdote about making roast chicken at the proposal. And obviously the mega glam portraits of them at Frogmore House.
The original engagement announcement pictures of them in the sunken garden at Kensington Palace were really nice, but then it was like, holy shit, here we go with these super luxurious portraits, the black and white ones of Meghan in that embellished like sheer Ralph and Russo gown. That was really like, holy hell, these are some sexy Sussexes to be. I think a story that we would have very much enjoyed covering on this had we been around at the time were the media reports of what Meghan had gifted to Kate for her 35th birthday in 2017. A dream diary.
It's so perfect. Like, obviously Meghan would give a dream diary. And what I love about this is not only what it says about Meghan, but also I can just imagine like Will and Kate catching each other's eye and being like, okay. Do you think Kate's written in her dream diary?
I mean, obviously the story was never confirmed, but it is the kind of speculation that I love. And I'm sure now is a great time for Kate to dig out that dream diary and spend some time journaling.
Oh, absolutely.
I love that Meghan continued to do some of her own activist work while she was engaged. Like, she wrote an essay on period stigma for Time magazine. Of course, she continued acting on Suits.
We binged all of Suits in the run-up to the royal wedding. So we ended up watching Rachel Zane's wedding the night before. Well, actually, the very early morning of
Meghan Markle's wedding.
Meghan Markle's wedding, which was really, really good fun.
Oh yeah, if you're looking for something to binge while in quarantine, watch Suits.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I hadn't seen it. I could watch it all over again.
I mean, it's not good, but it's also very good in that kind of way. We got some good paparazzi pics of Harry and Meghan early in their relationship. My favourites were when they went to that wedding in Jamaica in 2017 and we got the pictures of them sitting around the table. There was this one like excellent one of Meghan taking a drink from her wine glass and just looking like she's in Dynasty or something.
Yeah.
She looks like such a diva. It's amazing. And there's another one where Harry looks like he's just having a bit of a meltdown and Meghan is comforting him. Another excellent shot.
Of course, there was her Vanity Fair cover.
Oh my
September
god, I
2017.
love the Vanity Fair cover. Just crazy to think that she would be able to do something like that. But what a way to go out with those beautiful photos.
Yeah.
I also enjoyed reading Andrew Morton's book about Meghan, where we got some great details about her time in high school and also her first marriage, with the news that she dumped this first husband by post and also like left him by walking out with their NutriBullet, which is just so, oh my god, so
What
amazing.
A perfect thing.
Also feel like we would have been very into the first Fab Four appearance that Will, Kate, Harry and Meghan made together, which came just 2 weeks after Kate Middleton went to the BAFTAs and did not follow the black dress code for Time's Up when she wore that dark green dress. I was so annoyed about it. Meghan
Wow.
name checking Time's Up and Me Too at their first appearance together as a group.
I wondered, had someone said to her, you can't do that, and she just did it anyway? Or do you think they were like, oh, she probably knows that you can't be, political?
I think it was her showing that she's going to keep talking about women's empowerment no matter what. And, I think Meghan would have worn the black dress.
Oh, yeah. Probably the most relatable moment to us, I think, is when Harry and Meghan were spotted laughing at a Liam Payne performance
Oh
at
my
Commonwealth
God.
Day.
I love this clip.
Funny enough that Liam Payne is performing in Westminster Abbey.
This little look between them where Meghan kind of dips her head and looks like she's laughing to herself, and Harry looks like he's trying to keep a straight face. So good.
And because we saw Liam Payne perform, not at Westminster Abbey, but at Westfield Shopping Centre, and we shared pretty much the same looks.
So much about the wedding. Oh my God.
There's too much really to say about the wedding, so we were thinking we might do a special episode on it closer to their anniversary, because we went to Windsor for the wedding and it was really fun.
Yeah.
And also I'll get way too emotional right now talking about it.
Everything about the wedding. The cake, the flowers, the bride's speech, the bowl food. Just
the bowl food.
And then as soon as they were married, Meghan getting her own official bio on the royal website, which included the line, "I am proud to be a woman and a feminist," was like, wow, throwing down the gauntlet straight away.
Throwing down the gauntlet with 2 fingers up. I really loved at the time, and now it makes me kind of sad to think about the pictures of Meghan and the Queen in the royal train laughing together in Cheshire.
Yeah, it was such a nice gesture at the time.
Yeah.
The Queen inviting Meghan to do this appearance together when she hadn't done anything like that with Kate until much later into her marriage to William. And it was really like, oh, she's taking Meghan under her wing.
Yeah.
And this is a very strong show of support for Meghan. And I wish she could have done some more stuff like that, because I love those photos of the two of them laughing together with Meghan in that gorgeous half cape Givenchy dress and the Queen in the neon green.
Yeah.
So good. We also heard there was like a little bit of a controversy around Meghan's voice when she was captured speaking to someone in Cheshire and sounded like she had this quasi-British accent.
Kind of like Britney. Call me the governor.
Kind of like Madonna. For what it's worth, I don't think she sounded British in it. But Americans are very sensitive about accents, so maybe it was more perceptible to them than to you and I.
The Together cookbook was another real highlight. The Grenfell fire was such a terrible tragedy, and I will always remember seeing that footage on the TV. We were over in Ireland. I have seldom felt so far away from home, and to see Meghan taking such an active role in talking to survivors and working with them to raise funds for this community kitchen that was helping to feed people while they were displaced from their homes.
It really set the template for her royal career, that this was her first project, that she was making such a strong statement with this first project, that she was working with women that looked like her, that couldn't relate to other members of the royal family in the same way as they could with Meghan. And we especially saw that at the launch when Doria Raglan, Meghan's mother, came over to join her. I loved the footage from that event. I loved Harry just kind of hanging around in the background, every so often smoothing Meghan's hair down.
Yeah.
That was one of my number one favourite. A lot of you messaged us about that as well, that you loved the cookbook and the launch for the cookbook. It felt so hopeful as well. Everyone was so excited for the other work that Meghan was going to do.
I'd actually forgotten until you mentioned it there, the stuff about Harry, like how refreshing it was to see this royal man very happily taking a back seat and showcasing his wife's work. It was
So sweet.
Yeah.
There were myriad protocol breaches that I'm sure we would have chronicled.
Oh, yeah.
Probably the best one was Meghan's first solo engagement at the Royal Academy when she closed her own car door. Those photos of her reaching back to close that door nonchalant, like it's nothing at all, in her velvet Givenchy dress.
And I haven't had time for her since.
We talked last week about the Irish tour. Another thing that a few of you said was one of your favourite royal moments when Harry and Meghan went to Ireland. Obviously loved seeing Meghan meeting Brode and Shoda, and Michael D. Higgins and Sabina too, but primarily Brode and Shoda. Also loved at the evening reception when Meghan met some of the campaigners for repeal, which was the Irish referendum to repeal the Eighth Amendment and to allow abortion in Ireland. Meghan is said to have said that she was pleased with the result and that she had been following the campaign, but the two people that tweeted about their conversations with Meghan,
they had to do a bit of correcting themselves and adding in a few allegedly
qualifiers,
and things.
yeah. It's no surprise to anyone to hear that Meghan will be supporting a campaign for reproductive rights for women. I don't think that comes as a shock to anyone. But obviously she got a bit of a slap on the wrist from the media anyway. Also the tour of Australia and New Zealand, which kicked off with a bang when we learned there was a royal baby a-coming.
Yeah, we were all very excited for what would become Archie.
There were so many nice moments on this tour. I mean, it was a mammoth tour. My God. Some highlights. When Meghan baked that banana bread.
Oh, banana.
That was a game changer for me. Can you imagine a royal coming to your house with a baked good that they had prepared with their own hands?
I mean, I think if it wasn't Harry or Meghan, I wouldn't believe them.
Also loved the shots of Harry making the speech in the rain and Meghan holding the umbrella and gazing lovingly at him. Oh, what romance.
Yeah, and especially nice because we'd had that moment of Harry doing basically the same thing for her at the Together cookbook launch, of just looking with such pride and devotion at his wife.
Gotta say, umbrellas have served these two pretty well in photos.
Yeah.
Usually a scourge for photographers, but we've got a few mega wow moments with umbrellas from these two. Speaking of wow moments.
Oh my God. When they came across the crowd that included a brass band playing the Suits theme tune for Meghan.
Oh my God. This walkabout that was soundtracked with a sensational cover of the Suits theme. Suits theme, by the way, is hilarious if you've never heard it. You probably have an idea of what it sounds like. It is nothing like what you think it sounds like.
And it was like timed so perfectly for us because, like we said, we had finished watching Suits at the wedding and we were in like withdrawal, and it's such a catchy theme that was in our heads the whole time, and then to suddenly pick up this brass band version, it was perfectly timed.
But back to Meghan's work and the stories we started getting about Meghan's monster work ethic, her 5 a.m. emails.
I don't know why. I mean, it's so funny to me that we are all so shocked about a member of the royal family wanting to work. But maybe I shouldn't be shocked.
We heard so much about how she was sending 7 texts a day and wanting to talk all the time about her work, and how this was the kind of Hollywood style that royals just don't do. And to me, it just sounded like, this is work. Is that what royals don't do?
Yeah, I mean, it just makes you think of that kind of stereotype of someone like Prince Charles having the curtains drawn at like 11 a.m. and being presented with like 3 different kinds of toast, and then like 4 hours later he's managed to get into a suit and is sat down at his desk, kind of thing.
We already discussed the surprise appearance at the Fashion Awards, but even apart from the breathtaking outfit, there was the 2-hand bump cradle that everyone was freaking out about, the black nail polish, which I was freaking out about, And as well as that, do you remember the boomerang that Meghan did, the black and white boomerang with Claire White Keller, the Givenchy creative director that she presented the award to? They were doing this thing backstage at the awards where the winners and the hosts would pose together in a little photo booth kind of thing. I think it was like a boomerang, but I remember seeing it and showing it to you and being like, whoa, this is so weird that Meghan's in this. And it was obviously soon deleted, but I feel like that was such a throwback to Meghan's old Tig life.
Alas, we weren't as quick on the screen record then as we are now.
Oh, I have it.
Oh, we were.
We heard so much about how Meghan and Kate were feuding and catfighting and all this stuff, and I really enjoyed their walk together on Christmas Day. I know obviously they were hamming it up for the cameras, but I still enjoyed that they made the effort when their husbands could not.
Yeah. And I mean, with everything that we've seen since then, it like shows it all up in a very different light to what we thought at the time, but their kind of enforced camaraderie for Christmas.
Yeah, and the coordination of the outfits, all the colours, it just all looked very nice and cordial.
We said we'd talk about the importance of the banana in Meghan's royal work. Banana. We would be remiss if we didn't mention the messages that she wrote for sex workers in Bristol on bananas.
There was so much debate around this, but I thought it was such a nice move. We haven't really seen royals engaging with any activism around sex work before, so it was quite unusual to see Meghan doing it, and I just loved her approach to it. And like, it was obviously that very kind of sugary American type of thing where, you know, she was writing "you are loved" and all this kind of stuff, which is so Meghan, but that's what we love about it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We couldn't overlook the baby shower in New York.
Oh my god.
This, at the time, it just seemed like the most talked about thing that had ever happened.
The coverage was breathless. Tom and I were also breathless because we were following every minute of it. It was so wild. The extravagance of it, all the celebrities, the iced biscuits, the spawn. There was so much going on. It was so exciting. And I really hope some other stuff like this is in her future, because it was like glam as hell and so fun. Of course, then, following the baby shower, the baby, the birth of Archie.
The birth of little Archie. Surely one of the greatest moments in royal history.
Just everything about this was so exciting. When Harry, so delighted Harry making that statement in the stables where he was just grinning so much. That was adorable. When he said goodbye to the horses, that was so cute. And I liked that Meghan took her time and we didn't see them for a few days. And then when we did, that she was wearing that Grace Wales Bonner wrap dress that was that really fresh white again. And it seemed to call back to the engagement coat and the wedding dress. And, you know, these white outfits seem to have a lot of significance for Meghan. And, you know, every time we've seen Archie since then has been a real delight. Hopefully we will maybe see him again soon, whenever Harry and Meghan want to show him to us. Not demanding anything. That about brings us up to when we started doing the podcast. And I'm very sad that we won't be seeing this kind of stuff from Meghan anymore. I hope we do still see her.
Yeah, I want to know what they're up to. I want to keep up with the Sussexes.
Which we will, of course, still be doing. We don't know what's going to happen next week. We shall play it by ear.
So we will probably see you next week, because every time we think nothing's going to happen, something does. But until then, thanks so much for listening to this episode. If you liked it, please give us a 5-star review and tell a friend.
If you haven't already, make sure to check out our quiz on our new website, airheads.co.uk. You can also find us on Instagram and Twitter and Pinterest at AirheadsPod, and on Facebook at Airheads.
We hope everyone stays safe and stays inside and takes care of themselves. And until our next episode, bye.
Bye.
Thank you.